This show is produced by the Harwood Podcast Network.
Hi, I'm Cindy Harris, and we love making this show available to you free of charge. If you'd like to help us keep it that way, make a contribution to our Karma Jar or become a show sponsor. To learn more, visit our website. Today I'm making a batch of lemon curd. Out in my garden, the lemon tree is loaded with fruit, so I thought I'd take this opportunity to whip up a little batch of lemon curd. This curd is great on any tea table, and the thing I like about it is it's got a really bold lemon flavor and a nice little balance between sweet and tart. Now, when you're making curd, it's really important, I think, to get all of your ingredients ready. That way, when you go over to the stove, you don't have to leave the mixture on the stove cooking and go off and work on something else. So let's start by getting everything put together. You're going to be cooking this in a saucepan, so I'm using a medium-sized saucepan today. And in it, I'm going to put in a half a cup of water. And for the sweetener, we'll be using sugar, so I will measure out a half a cup plus 2 tablespoons of sugar. And the thickener is cornstarch, and I have 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. I'm going to put that in the pan. And for this, I like to use a whisk, so I'm just going to whisk these ingredients together. I basically just want the sugar and the cornstarch to start to dissolve. Now, after whisking this for just about a minute or so, you should see all the lumps come out of the cornstarch. And then I'll set this aside and we'll get our lemon juice ready. Now, one of the things that's true with some lemon curd is it just doesn't have enough of a real lemon flavor. So what I'm going to do is take the zest off of enough lemons until I have 1 tablespoon of lemon zest. So I'm going to use my microplaner and I'm going to drag it on the top of the lemon, but just taking off that top bit of yellow. If you go into the white part, it can start to get kind of bitter tasting, which we don't want. Now, the thing I like about dragging the microplaner over the lemon is you see all the zest collects here, and then when I'm ready, I can take my measuring spoon and just kind of scrape it along there, and it collects all of the zest. So that was 1 lemon, so I'm just going to keep going until I get a full tablespoon. I have my full tablespoon of zest, and I'm just going to use the measuring cup that I had the water in. I'm going to put that zest right in there. And now I'm going to take the juice out of the lemons. I need a half a cup of fresh lemon juice. Now, for these size lemons, these are kind of medium-sized lemons off my tree. I needed 3 of them for the zest. I'm not really quite sure how many I'll need for the juice. When I do have to juice like about a half a cup, I do use my little juicer here. I find it's easier than using my reamer, but use whatever you have. Now, whatever you use to juice, it's really important that you trap all of those seeds, especially in homegrown lemons. You can get a lot of seeds. So I'll start and see how much juice I got there. So I'll juice a little bit more. And there's my half a cup with just a little bit to spare. Now that the juice and zest is ready, I'll set that to the side. And we'll get our eggs ready. Now, when I separate out eggs, I like to have 3 bowls going. I like a small one to separate out over, and then a bowl big enough to hold the whites and one big enough to hold the yolks. When I get the egg, I don't crack it on the side of the bowl, and the reason is that many times it fragments the shell, and some of the shell actually goes into the bowl, which we don't want. So it's best to just take it to the side and give it a little whack there, and then I open up the egg over the small bowl, and I start transferring it back and forth in the shell. Now the reason I do it over this small bowl is that in case this yolk were to break, it's just going to break within this little bowl, not into the bowl that already has the yolks and the whites. So I have my yolk, I'm going to transfer it to the bowl with the yolks, and then my white will transfer over to the bowl with the whites. This is a really good habit to get into. That way, whether you're making something with all yolks or all whites, those ingredients will be kept really separate from each other, which in some recipes is really important. Now here are our 4 egg yolks. I'm going to set those to the side. And then these 4 egg whites, we can cover these and put these in the refrigerator. They can be used to make macaroons, or you could put them in an egg white omelet, but we definitely want to keep these. And our last ingredient to get ready is some butter, and I need 1.5 tablespoons of butter. Now that our ingredients are ready, we can go over to the stove and start cooking our curd. Now I've brought the saucepan over here to the stove, and I have this on a medium heat, and I'm going to be using my whisk to whisk this together. I basically want to bring it to where it starts to thicken, and with cornstarch that can happen kind of quickly once the mixture heats up, so that's why I want to stay with this. Now another thing I'd like to point out to you is the color of the mixture right now. You can see it's very, very opaque, very white, and with cornstarch it starts that way, but then as it starts to thicken you're going to see that color start to change. So I do want you to sort of see that. Now it's been a couple of minutes. You can start to see a little bit of steam starting to rise off the pan. That's always a sign that things are getting close to starting to come to a boil. Now you can see it's starting to simmer. We're starting to get some bubbles. So I definitely want to keep whisking at this point. It's starting to become a little bit more translucent in color. And as this begins to come to a simmer, that cornstarch is starting to work, and it's going to start thickening the water. Now it's really starting to simmer nicely here. I'm going to take my egg yolks and I'm going to drop them in one at a time, but I have to keep stirring. That's really, really important. Now the eggs are in. Now I'm going to take the lemon juice and zest and pour that in. And then finally my butter. Now we're going to bring this back up to a boil, but we have to stay with it and keep stirring it constantly. I'm beginning to see a couple of bubbles, but I want to see a nice boil over all of the surface there. Now, off to the side here, I have a medium-sized bowl and my little strainer. Now you can see this is a really nice thickness for this curd, so I'm going to turn the heat off, and I'm going to take that and I'm going to pour that through my strainer. And I'm going to take my spatula and I'm going to run it through the strainer. Now the reason I'm doing this is because sometimes some of the eggs start to cook and be almost like a scrambled egg, and even a little seed or two can sometimes sneak by. But if we run it through the strainer like this, we will catch any of those solids and this curd will be really, really smooth. Now see, look in the strainer here, we've got some of those little white solids. We don't want that in the curd. We want to just keep that right in the strainer. Here is our delicious, smooth lemon curd. Now once we have our curd in the little bowl, we need to get this to lukewarm temperature. So I'm just going to let it sit on the counter here for about a half an hour. And then I'll cover it with plastic and put it in the refrigerator to completely chill down. Now here are a couple of suggestions on how you can serve this lemon curd. One is just put it in a pretty glass dish and serve it on your tea table, and that way people can spread it on scones. You could also fill little tart shells with it, and that's delicious. And then you can also serve it on pound cake or even angel food cake, and it's also very good. Now if you'd like to make some of this lemon curd at home for your tea table, just go to our website and go to the Come for Tea show notes page, and I'll have the recipe there for you. And if you do make it, please send me a photo so that I can send you the lemon curd badge. Now don't forget to visit us on Facebook, and of course if you have any questions or ideas for me, please send me an email. I'll see you next time.